And so we're going to pick it up from where we left off yesterday in the Vehadar Mishna Berura over here, and we're going to begin on this comment over here on Os Yud Tes. We're going to start with Yud Tes is going on when the Mishnah Berura said that your table should be set until after Havdalah. That's what the Mishnah Berura said. Keep it set until after Havdalah. So they comment over here like this. I'm going to zoom it in for the sake of so everyone could read. Lefi tam shehu v'le'el. There's a reason that we quoted earlier. Shehu kedei. She has kiru shehu Shabbos v'leichalu. One reason. There's really two reasons to have the table set on Shabbos. The table set on Shabbos. Number one is it's in honor of Shabbos. It's covered Shabbos. Number two, it's in order to remember that it's Shabbos and you won't come to desecrate it. Imken says shayich ad achar Havdalah. So that applies until after Havdalah to remember that it's Shabbos. Shari adaz hu aser b'malachos. Until that time, it is prohibited to work. Right. So therefore, we want to have a recognition that it's still Shabbos and we won't come to do something which we're not allowed to do on Shabbos. V'afli atam shehu mekubed Shabbos sarich loimer. Shadach Havdalah nimshech etani Shabbos l'yin kamadim kimo iser malachos. Al kein sarich sheyeh hashulchan aruch ad as. And furthermore, even according to the reason that it is kavod Shabbos to have the table set, it's a respect for Shabbos. So therefore, until after Havdalah, Shabbos continues regarding many halachas, right? When we learned Hilchos Havdalah that the person shouldn't be doing activities that he's not supposed to do, that he's not allowed to do on Shabbos, actual malacha, until after Havdalah. He's preferably, according to all opinions. So therefore, also over here as well, the table needs to be set until that time. Why? Because it's all part of Shabbos, covered Shabbos. So it's two reasons why the table should be set until after Shabbos. In other words, it's taking the reasons for why the table should be set in general and essentially explaining and extending and elaborating why it should be done until after Havdalah. Let's go to Os Chaf Aleph down below. Os Chaf Aleph is going on this idea of, we saw in the Mishnah Berura, as well as an elaboration in the Be'er Heitiv, I'm not mistaken, it was Be'er Heitiv, that the table should be covered with two tablecloths. Okay, because when you shake it out, the top tablecloths are now, at least the table will still be covered with the tablecloth under it. So it will be covered at all times. So in Chaf, they say, wait a second, the Magen Avram, which is the source of the Mishnah Berura, we saw this also in the Be'er Heitiv, Magen Avram quoting the Marshal in the Be'er Heitiv we saw, says an additional reason, the reason of a tent, of an ohel, that if you're just going to remove a tablecloth and put a new one on, it's as if you're making a tent and it's a problem. So therefore, if you have a second tablecloth underneath it, so then when you're going to put the tablecloth on top of it, on the lower one, a new second one, but the first one will remain there, it's considered only as if you're being mosif al ohel arai, you are adding on a temporary tent, and it would be permissible. Comes along the Oz Vehadar Mishna Berura and says, Ulam Magen Avram dacha devarav. The Magen Avram rejects this. Alpi Masha Kasav, it says in Siman Shin Tezvav, Shemapa Shal Shulchan Shaloi Nifrasa Letzel, Ein Ba Shum Chashash Ohel. That if you have a tablecloth, okay, that is on the table, and it wasn't spread for the purposes of providing shade, there's no concern of making an ohel, of making a tent. That's what the Machzir Shekel explains. So therefore, they want to say a chiddush. That's why the Mishnah Berura didn't bring this second reason, which is an issue of what making an ohel, because it's not an ohel, because you're not, when you make a tent, okay, it's shady, it's a little hot today, it's a little sunny, you make a tent. Over here, that doesn't apply. However, the Shulchan Aruch writes this reason, does say the second reason. So this is one explanation, perhaps, and we asked this question, why the Mishnah Berura didn't bring this reason. This perhaps is the answer.
At what point should you clear a table? After, like, let's say, for Shalashinis, at what point do you clear the table to make it look nice for Havdalah? You should always. You don't. So it's okay to have a messy table for Havdalah?
That's right.
And as far as covering I heard pretty recently. I don't know if we spoke about it, but covering challah for Havdalah. Why would you have a chiyuv for to cover Havdalah? If there's bread on the table, why would there be a chiyuv? If you don't have if you have to make Havdalah before you eat, then why would you have to cover the challah?
I
You
don't know
heard
why
this?
you think you need to cover it, where you got that from.
I'm in text right now. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know why
Someone,
you think, I don't know why you think you need to cover it, where you got that from. You don't need to cover it,
let me
especially if
see.
you're not eating after. It's maybe a shaila if person's gonna eat after, immediately after Havdalah, in
Yeah.
maybe perhaps there would be an Indian to cover it because the bracha of hamotzi would proceed, but you can't have the hamotzi anyways before the Havdalah. Okay, I don't. Yeah, that's more of a Hilchos Havdalah shaila. I don't know if that exact shaila came up when we learned Hilchos Havdalah.
Havdalah is not connected to the eating. The kiddush is more connected to the meal,
Right,
right? You have to have
100%,
kiddush b'makom suda.
100%. But the
All right.
Havdalah, right? In other words, I mean, it's kind of the same thing as Kiddush, though, because Kiddush you can't really eat the challah anyways, because you need the Kiddush. The Kiddush is the key to opening the door of enabling, halachically allowing a person to eat the challah. So therefore, just like by Kiddush, you need to cover it, even though you can't even eat the challah. So to over here, you need to do it.
But
So,
as far as making a table neat for Havdalah, there's no fee, but you shouldn't it doesn't you
shouldn't what?
shouldn't make a table you shouldn't clean the table for Havdalah.
Again, I mean, I just answered that 3 minutes ago. If no, you don't clean it, right? But I did want to point something out. If a person's gonna daven mincha gedola, get home and have shalosh shudas at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Shabbos ends at 9 o'clock, and he's done with shalosh shudas at 4 o'clock. Okay, so then you have 5 hours. You clean it the covered Shabbos, keep it clean. But if you're gonna have shalosh shudas like most people do right before Shkia, they eat a quick meal, they're done, and then they're at Marv 10 minutes after they bench, and then they're back 20 minutes later. Why would you clean the table then? That's hachana. That's an obvious hachana. You're preparing for the next week.
All right, no, and if it's usually my wife. My wife's usually she would be at home, and if it's more time, if there's a lot of time between when I come home and after Shabbos.
That's right. It's still usher.
Okay.
Yeah. In other words, you got to tell the women that's the biggest problem. Is
Yeah,
that
she
you
doesn't.
have
She
child
doesn't.
shoulders, especially at a Shabbos like this. Shabbos is over what time now? It starts 4:30. It's over
Yeah.
4:45.
Shabbos is gonna be over at 5. I
And
think
at
5:40.
5:45, it's over before 6, right? So, it's if you want to, if this is what I say, right? If the wife wants to get a head start on the Shabbos cleanup, no problem. Once Shabbos is over, she could start cleaning up even though her husband isn't home, right? Because that's what we learned in Havdalah, right? If the hachana isn't as bad as doing an actual malacha before Havdalah, right? But during actual Shabbos, you shouldn't be doing that. Okay.
Is there any rate about when you have to take the tablecloths off? Like, is it I don't want to say busha, like if you keep it on Sunday till Sunday afternoon, like you got.
Yeah, so we didn't see anything about that yet, but we could probably deduce from the neighboring halacha of these halachas over here that we're learning, aka the halachas of clothing, that a person should not be wearing the Shabbos clothing during the week. We're going to learn about simchas much more, but wearing them for simchas during the week. But just like clothing, a person shouldn't wear Shabbos clothing during the week. So then, so to the tablecloth, a person should take it off Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos. Definitely after Malav Malka, shouldn't be there anymore. So, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Moving right along. So we're gonna skip Os Chav Beis, which is a long one, which talks about draping the clothing and everything, because we don't really do that anymore, as we learned in the Aruch HaShulchan, as well as Chav Gimel discusses that. And we therefore are going to go straight to Chav Daled. Okay, now we're going to be switching to clothing. Oh, okay. So now we're going to be switching to clothing up until this point. we were learning about tablecloths, tables. So now we're going to be switching gears to the clothing. Shaya, great to see you. I don't know where your video is anymore, but okay. No, we discussed that yesterday. He's
Nice to see you too.
yeah, but we can't see you. Camera shy. Okay. He doesn't want to be famous now. Okay. Don't worry. If anyone's listening to, if anyone's watching this video on par 5, kol hakavod. Okay. Chav Daled. Ubiyaru b'Gemara. This is good stuff that we're learning. So the Gemara explains Sham. David Demis is also at the same thing as Shaya. Now that it's recording, I don't want the paparazzi to get me. Paparazzi's not going to get you, Shaya. You don't need to worry. Okay. Ubiyaru. Says over here with the Gemara Sham. B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan. They say Rabbi Yochanan says Shahamalbush nikra kavod. Person's clothing is called something honorable. Shu makabir as adam. Person's clothing brings honor to a person. Shekisha ba lemakom she'im akirim oiso v'royim oiso lavush bigdei chamudos azim makabdin oiso. And when a person is going to go to a place that they don't recognize him, and they're going to see him, he's wearing nice clothing, so then they're going to honor him. In other words, there's a difference about if a person goes to an area, a place where they don't recognize you, and you're wearing clothing that it looks like you just picked up from the 99-cent store that's used from 3 different people before you, versus if someone's wearing nice clothing and he's dressed properly, right? It makes a difference. So too when it comes to Shabbos.
Clothing makes the man, it's saying over here.
That's correct. Odis the Gemara, but we're not done yet. Furthermore, the Gemara says in Kuf Yadalmi Nayin, the Shinu begodim in the Torah. How do we know of the concept of changing clothing? Shenema Pashadas begodav lavish bilam lechim. Remove the clothing, you wear other clothing. The Tana de Rabbi Yishmael im decha tartar deracheres begodim shishul bahem k'dei l'abra al yimus be'en kol sarhaba. Rabbi Yishmael teaches us that the clothing that a person wears, okay, to cook with, chef, to cook with. So, begodim shebishalam kadeira l'rabba imzug mehem kois l'rabbo, right? So he's cooking for his master or his rabbi. So he should not use that same clothing to pour a cup for his master, for his rabbi. In other words, you wear different clothing. When a person's mowing the lawn, when a person's involved with painting, etc., you wear different clothing than you do at other times. Kasav Marsha is a deeper idea behind this statement. This is deep. This is talking about clothing that we wear for Shabbos. The clothing that you were wearing Erev Shabbos to prepare for Shabbos, to cook for Shabbos, to prepare with Al Yimzigu Behem Kol Saraba. What does that mean? Don't use it to pour your master, your Rebbe, a drink. Hainu Kosho Kiddush Shalosh Shabbos. Oh, it's talking about don't use it for that clothing for the kos of Kiddush. That's a deeper idea for pouring the kos for your master, for your Rebbe. Nice idea. Then the Yerushalmi says in Maseches Peah, Lamdu shesarach tiyeh lo begodim acher beged acher l'Shabbos mashenemar berus. You have to have other clothing for Shabbos from based on a pasuk in Rus. They learn that from. Okay, so that's another Yerushalmi. Bakolbo hosef otam shun megam k'tei shigitru Shabbos hu yom kol shvas v'sim malacha. We already touched upon this reason a little bit when it came to tablecloths. So Kolbo explains another reason for wearing clothing is to remember that Shabbos is a holy time and you are not allowed to do certain things on Shabbos, as we know the malachos of Shabbos, muksa, etc. So that is that point over there. Moving right along, footnote Chafei, Magen Avraham Kasav b'Shem Harizal, Boyfen Acher Tov Shel Yilbush V'Chol V'Kol Ma Shalabish V'Shabbos Afilu Chaluk. In other words, which way is it going? Don't wear anything that you wear on Shabbos during the week, or don't wear anything that you wear during the week on Shabbos. So he has it the other way around. Chen Kasav Agos, Mariah Luzai, Ubetahil David, Tama Lava Kasav Shena Muvan. Shulchan Aruch Rav Mishna Berura Kasav Lehev Shul Yidrush Shabbos Kol Ma Shalabish Chol. Shulchan Aruch Rav Mishna Berura, right the opposite. Whatever you wear on Shabbos, don't wear during the week. B'shar kavanos, that reason. Kosef Shnei Dvarim, he writes both. Zel Shanish Yizar Shishum Albush, because when we come out Shalabash Adu Meachol, in right little bush Roman Shabbos, if you look at Shabbatin or live Shabbos Meachol, well. V'chein Yivid Bishmo B'Kafachayim, Amam Davar Mitzvah. Mo Nisun Bris Mila Nohagu L'Leilach B'Gdei Shabbos for a Davar Mitzvah, such as a Chasana, a wedding, a Bris Mila. Minog is that people do wear Shabbos clothing even during the week, as it's brought down in Siman Tov Kuf Nun Aleph Sif Aleph, which I think is the halachas of the 9 days. Then they bring another important point. Look later on in the Mishnah Berura and Sivkot and Ches that you should wear Big Day Shabbos until after Milava Malka, not just with Bella. So, point is that here in a footnote in the parentheses, they bring this idea of it being permissible to wear Shabbos clothing during the week. Yeah, we're actually going to see others don't like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
If I'm not mistaken, we're going to see in the Chut Shani. He doesn't like that at all. Chut Shani, remember, need some Krelitz. Yeah. Related to the Chazon Ish, if I'm not mistaken.
We're gonna learn about the different levels, right? When Yantiv clothing is supposed to be better.
Yeah, Yantiv better than Shabbos. Yeah, you gotta have a whole arsenal of clothing. We're saying now that you need special clothing for Shabbos. You need special
nowadays. That even, even lots of people, that they what's it called,
So it's so funny how many different levels of clothing, according to that a person has. You have clothing during the week, Shabbos clothing, Yantiv clothing, clothing for potentially Simchas. I mean, yeah.
Well, Simcha seems to level on Shabbos, I'm saying over here, no?
Right, but I'm saying Chut Shani and others are saying they have special
So
clothing,
so the Chut Shani,
not
you have
Shabbos clothing, right?
So you have to like a level above even Yantiv? Or like where would that category fit in?
It comes to like a designated lavush, a designated garb that maybe would be like equal to Shabbos clothing for a simcha, but it's dafka not worn on Shabbos. We'll see about it more. We'll get there. We can only do one thing at a time. So, but yeah. I mean, something to think about. Oh, here it is. What about shoes? Do you need Shabbos shoes? So we touched upon this earlier on. According to the Chaf HaChaim, you don't need special Shabbos shoes. And he brings a proof from the Yerushalmi. However, look at the Pnei Moshe over there, one of the Farshim on the Yerushalmi. Maybe it's not a proof. Mikol Malkom Chaf HaChaim writes, that's Me'ikar Hadin. Technically, you don't need special Shabbos shoes. However, Midas Chasidus Roy Lahachlif Af Nalaim. Midas Chasidus is you should switch your shoes, even your shoes. King Kosav Achesed Lavram. O Kosav Sham Sha'afa Begodim Sheshoiche Behem Yesh Lachlifim. Wow, pajamas. Either that's going on the Kaf HaChaim or the Chesed Avraham. We'll have to see the Kaf HaChaim inside, but you should change your pajamas. However, from the Machasi to Shekel, it's implied that at night when you go to sleep, you don't need special Shabbos pajamas. So there's two things that are briefly being mentioned over here. I mean, this is really the truth. There's a lot more to say about this than this just brief footnote, but at least we see three ideas. Number one, they're lenient that you don't need special, that you can wear your Shabbos clothing at a simcha during the week. That's number one. Number two is that technically you don't need Shabbos shoes. However, it's midas chasidus. Nice idea to have Shabbos shoes, but technically you don't need to. That's a nice leniency that we could have in our front pocket and we might have not known before. That's a leniency. People think, oh, no, you don't need Shabbos shoes. He doesn't say why. Right? The question is, does the shoe have the din of a beged? A shoe ain't a beged, it's an al.
Did we talk about
I said that outside. So, is it a din in the beged? The din in the beged, and it's not a beged, so then fine. Right? And then the pajamas, the question is, why not the pajamas? Why would you not need pajamas? Right? Mashma from the Machzir Shach, you don't need to. Why not? So in the Mishnah Berura, even if you're by yourself, clothing is for you. Maybe because really you're just going right to sleep. You're not moving around with it, whatever. I mean, the whole reason of wearing clothing, nice clothing for Shabbos, is for two reasons. Number one, it's respectful for Shabbos. Number two, so you remember not to do malacha, things that are asur. So you don't need to worry about that when you're sleeping. Not do things that are asur and respectable Shabbos. You're sleeping, so it doesn't matter. You're not really. Chavav. This is actually going on the Be'er Halacha. Be'er Halacha said, talking about, now we're going to go back to tablecloths. This idea of the Be'er Halacha was lenient, you don't need to cover tablecloths, your tables with tablecloths in rooms that you're not eating in. Eli Rabba Kasav, Shemir Divrei Hagois Min Hagim, Shekasav should be made sukkahs. Goes Min Hagim writes during sukkahs where we eat in the sukkah, as we know. Ein Sarach Lakaso is a shulchan shel beis acharif. You don't need to cover the tables in your house. So what's mashma from there? It's implied. Sarach Lakaso is a shulchan nak makom shulchan. It's implied from the halachas of sukkah that we only need to cover the table where we're eating, aka in the sukkah, because that's where we're eating. And places where we're not eating, such as in the house, you don't need to cover. So we could take that logic and transfer it to Shabbos.
Well, what is it? Unless women eat inside, but yeah.
Unless women what?
Sometimes say the women. It's a part. What for sukkahs you have? It's a possibility that people would eat inside, or let's say, it rains. Maybe it's a possibility, but
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah, it's possible, but
you should have the table set, right?
Okay, fine. So then you said it when it rained. Like this year, the weather. This is the best years in Sukkah, on Sukkot that I could remember my entire life. There was no rain. I mean, right now, I don't know if anyone is following or anyone has even realized it hasn't rained in around a month.
Yeah,
A drought.
How much a drought?
issue.
Yeah, there is a drought, and they even said in New York City, limit the amount of water that you use. Right? They even said that. So there are fires in California. We don't have these issues going on.
There's a fire in New Jersey. There's a fire not so far from
there are
Lake.
droughts, So what does that have to do with this? The answer is because, if you know your weather, you got to know your weather. And you saw this year, it wasn't raining. You don't need to set anything. You set it when it rains. Al tiftach pe'lasatan, so to say. Don't set that thing in advance saying, oh, it's going to rain and then we're going to have to run inside. No. So the same halacha applies on Shabbos. You don't need to cover the tables in rooms where you're not eating. Ulam Hosef. However, he adds over here, zoom this in. It's good stuff that we're learning. You see what happens when you're patient, you learn halacha slow. You actually learn it the right way. You actually get to good conclusions. However, the Eli Rabbah says, oh, exactly his point. No, this is going like what David said. Specifically on Sukkot, we don't cover the tables in the house so that there won't be a kvius. We don't establish ourselves. We don't make it set in our houses. We limit that kvius to the sukkah. However, on Shmini Atzeres, even though we're eating in a sukkah because we have a doubt, like the Gemara says, Bruchi Yeshu Yasvin and Bruchi Lamavachinam, we sit in the sukkah but we don't say a bracha. So then you should cover the table in the sukkah, in the house, even though you're not eating. So could be only that's a special halacha by sukkahs, perhaps. What does the Prima Gadim say about this? Because the Prima Gadim, the Eli Rabbah says you should cover the tables in the rooms, even though you're not eating, and that's fitting to do. So he's medayik from there, and he says, you see from there that what? That this whole idea of that this is only talking about rooms that you're not eating in, but it's implied from here a room that you are eating it in, for sure you need to cover it. Kaf Chaim says another reason why we cover the tables, fascinating new idea. Why do we cover tables? The answer is so that the bracha will last. We'll be able to dwell there. The bracha will only dwell in a place where a person is eating and making a bracha. And therefore, you only need to cover the table in a place where you are eating and making the brachas.
Missing the logic here with this one.
Yeah.
Says the time, the reason why you cover the shulchan is
Yeah.
so the tisha, that the bracha should be able to be shora there. We're talking about
Yeah.
the actual bracha that you're making,
A blessing that you're going to get.
a blessing that you're going to
Yeah.
get.
There's an idea of Lubavitcher Rebbe used to, before you give a bracha, you'd always give $1.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the bracha has to have something that it could fall on, something physical.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deep idea behind this. Same idea over here. When you eat there, it's a different vibe.
So the tablecloth helps.
That's right.
I'm just
Yeah.
not making the connection.
It helps the bracha coming down there. Come down there.
He's explaining why, but just that
Yeah.
it helps.
Let's take a look. Chav Beis Kapachayim. Yeah, I got everything ready over here. What do you think? This is my first day on the job over here? This is year 11. Come on. Yeah, year 11. That's it. Okay. Chav Beis. Dahainu shekol haShabbos yehashulchan mechusa mepachas shekasav b'darchei Moshe shekasav Eli Rabba Oz Gimel. Here it is, nearly. Okay. Same exact Eli Rabba that we just saw, according to the chase. V'chein yira memash chesavim leil. Os Yud Gimel the answer chachas shulchan shalchol alav da'atamu kadei shetishra sham brach v'brachim neshara b'makom she'oichlu mavarach. The brachas will only dwell in a place where you're eating and making brachas. In other words, where's all the kedusha happening? The answer is at the table. The table's like a mizbeach. We uplift the table by having kiddush, by having hamotzi, by saying divrei Torah, by singing zmiros. I mean, it's loaded with brachas. And therefore, the bracha, right? It's kind of like.
So this is an additional reason for putting the table.
Correct. Yes. This reminds me of, they say opposite personalities attract, whatever. But let me say, at the end of the day, people who usually engage in longer conversations with each other usually have a lot of the same things to talk about, and they are comparing, contrasting ideas, right? And also socioeconomic. Right? Usually people at a similar socioeconomic background end up being friends with each other, connecting with each other. Usually, it's not always that way. But so it's the same idea over here, that the bracha is going to be attached to a bracha, so to say. Okay, moving right along, we're going to go to Kaf Ches. Shabbos, it's impossible. Okay, so this is actually going on something very important. This is a good halacha for anyone with kids. Okay, we saw in the Mishnah Berura quoted the Sefer Chasidim. I'll go back up over here. Chasidim Sefer Chasidim. Al yikach adam yeled. Don't take a child, because it could be very likely it's going to dirty your clothing on Shabbos until you put something in between you and the child. Right? What is he talking about over here? The answer is footnote Kaf Ches. Shabbos, as we know, we're not allowed to do laundry. And therefore, if our clothing gets dirty with poop from a child, we're not going to be able to daven. And if we don't have any other clothing, then we're going to have to put on weekday clothing. It's not going to be good. Masha from the Sefer Chasidim. This is talking about if you don't have any other clothing to change into, if your suit got dirty, if your clothing got dirty. However, if you have other clothing, so then you don't need to come on to this. So the question is nowadays, I'm just going to ask the question. Anyone could answer that we have, number one, diapers, not like what they used to have. We have the disposable. And number two, we have clothing on top of the diapers. Do we need to worry about this?
I think the same way that a person has like those things, you put it on your shoulder when the baby's on you, because you might be spit
up cloth, yeah.
So it might be the same in also, even though you have diapers or whatever, you might be worried about the spit up that goes on the clothing.
Right. So you have to know your baby and know the age. Right. So if the baby is still nursing, whether it's from the milk or from formula, and therefore it's going to be a spit up situation. So you have to be careful with that. But to be honest, this has nothing to do with spit up. Spit up is mutter davening.
So you think it's
It's
more
not
of a
comfortable.
cleaning issue and not more of
The
a-
issue is the
That's more of a
poop,
dirty, I think.
because with the poop, it's usher to daven like that. It's usher. Spit up would not be a problem, because the smell isn't as bad.
According to the first line, that's going to what the Rav said, but the second line is more like you just worry about your clothing getting dirty.
Let me share one thing briefly. In the halachas of feces, vomit is not a problem. Vomit is not. The feces is a problem. So that's more of a problem. It also really depends on the age of the child. But the Maisa, person should be careful when the spit up. You shouldn't be davening with clothing that has tons of spit up on it.
Right.
So, you have to have the spit up cloth. You have to be smart about it. You have to know your child. Our kid that's around 8 months now.
What's the problem with the spit up?
The problem is, if you're gonna come in to daven, would you stand in front of a gadol hador wearing a jacket that has spit up on it?
I mean, you wouldn't, but this is like a daily thing, and the color doors an
No,
occasional.
no. This is just standing in front of the King of all kings, the gadol
Right.
gadolim. So even though it happens 3 times a day that we daven minimally, nevertheless, we're still only lifnei abelach, and therefore we have to dress accordingly and appropriately.
Right.
So that's the idea. But the poop, you have to know your kid. So our 8-month-old, she'll leak maybe through at night. That's it. It will leak through the diaper and the clothing because it's 2-pack. But not during that, it won't be a problem. So you have to kind of know your kid, feel out the situation of what it is, and that's the Inyan. Okay, I just want to end with one question for everyone to think about. Okay, it says over here, very quick question. It says over here in Sif Beis, you should strive, yishtadel, that you should have begodim noim l'Shabbos. Very nice clothing for Shabbos. Sif Gimel, yilbush begodim hanoim. Wear nice clothing. What's the chiddush from Sif Gimel? We already learned that in Sif Beis. Strive to wear nice clothing. Yilbush begodim hanoim. Wear nice clothing. Isn't that completely repetitious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Mitzvah Hashem
Okay.
tomorrow we'll tackle that. Mitzvah Hashem Levanshich tomorrow. Have a
Cliffhanger.
wonderful day.
Cliffhanger.
You gotta always leave it. You got
All right, just
All right. All right. Have a wonderful
Have a good
day.
day, all right?
Look at that.